I just want to talk about what trauma does and how much work and how hard and how difficult it is to actually overcome trauma because it's something that embeds itself in your subconscious. And I can only speak from my personal experience, but even if you're fully aware of your trauma, where it comes from, what you've gone through, like in my case, it's something that I've from childhood, I've known what's happened to me. I've talked about it in therapy. I've done a lot of talk therapy throughout the course of my life. And then there's been other traumas that have happened that have been sort of ongoing throughout my adolescent years, university years, and most recently in my adult life. And sort of that accumulation of trauma has created this subconscious programming that leads to very deep seated wounds and patterns of behavior that are automatic. Even though, like I said, I'm very conscious of all of my issues, but subconsciously things happen and they lead to reactions from me in certain situations, like triggers from what other people say or do, that even though if you talk to me on a day when nothing's going on, I can tell you exactly, like, I know what my traumas are. I know how I've been affected and impacted when I'm in a given situation and something gets triggered. It's almost like I go into automatic response mode. It's not even me. It's just this trauma that has such a strong hold in how my world is shaped, taking over. And I would say also that having gone through the effort and the work to understand what all of it means and how it works in the pathways and the neural pathways in the brain is that my entire system only knows one certain way of living. It only knows to expect the worst. It knows to be disappointed, to be hurt. Like that subconscious programming. That's how it lives. It just expects that that's the way that my life will always be. And I share that because recently I had an opportunity. I met somebody, and this person was just goodness, and just incredibly loving, open, communicative. And that behavior and the way that this person approached me, talked to me, engaged with me was so foreign to me, was so different than what my subconscious programming knows, which so unfamiliar that it perceived it as a threat. Now, there were some sort of environmental circumstances that also sort of triggered some deep seated wounds. The place that we were kind of threw me back to a point in time in my history that was very traumatic. And so that didn't help because basically, when you have these sort of flashbacks of times when you were not in good places, as much as you can be cognizant and conscious of your issues, there's really nothing that you can do. That flashback sort of takes over and you just start living like you're back when that was happening, that traumatic event was happening. So that happened as well, but it should have been counterbalanced with the interactions with this man that were so positive, were so engaging, were so, I mean, very kind and gentle. And I replied in a way that was, this is foreign to me, get it away. And became very sort of reactionary and rejected and pushed. And just felt myself doing it. Actually, I didn't even really feel myself doing it. I would say I wasn't even aware. I wasn't even present in the moment. That's how strong the flashback play was. It was so present in that I was in this other place of my childhood where terrible things happened because of the environment that I don't even remember. I didn't even remember for like 2 days until after. Like, what did I actually say? What was I doing? How was I behaving? All of that was on an automatic response from this underlying trauma. Um, and then by then it was too late, right? So I behaved that way with this person that was just a really good person. And, that person just decided that this wasn't going to work for them. And and that happened. And, 2 days after it happened, I realized, I took a step back and looked at like how that interaction had, played out. What was my role in it? What had I done? And saw what I had done. Like that, oh my God, I was completely living not in that present moment where there was goodness, but it was all of my subconscious programming that came to the surface, triggered by a flashback. And I was doing and behaving as though I was in a dangerous place. I literally felt that I was at threat. Like there was this sense of this is so, on one hand, the environment was this triggering, like familiar place that I didn't want to go to. And on the other hand, this person was engaging with me in a way that nobody engages with me. I don't I don't get kindness or love. I haven't. Um, and it was just so crazy looking back, like 72 hours after it happened, and seeing like how I had interacted with this person and how these very sort of unfortunate set of behaviors that come from unworked trauma, attachment style theory that really explains very clearly why this is so fundamental. This is such crucial work, and it's tough because I'm exhausted. I feel like I've worked for years with therapists, talking. Um, this integrated attachment theory course until I started it and got exposed to really like what's behind the surface. It was all very sort of conceptual and theoretical. I again, I'm a pretty smart individual, so I'd read about attachment styles a while ago, conversations with different people that I'd counseled with, but it didn't really hold any water or meaning until I got into the work of it through this course, and then it's still, really seeing it in person in my own life, like seeing it, like seeing that this happened. And genuinely my heart is broken. Like I don't have any other explanation for like how I feel um because of what happened, because I think that it was a bit nascent, getting to know somebody at the very beginning. It's the sort of quintessential, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And my first impression was completely domineered by all of the characteristics of my core wounds, my subconscious programming, and deep seated trauma. And again, I didn't even know what I was doing in the moment. That's how potent and powerful trauma is. And I don't know, again, I'm more consciously aware. I'm going through the exercises of trying to reprogram my mind so that I don't have these reactions. But it's scary because it's so deep and so profound what I've gone through that, people say, you're a survivor. I wish people would stop saying that. Uh, Trauma really affects your life and not in a good way. I'm hurting, and I see you can see that, and I can't do anything about it, about what's happened, about the past. I can go forward and continue to do the work and invest the time. And I know that, it will take time. That's all I know. I don't know how much time. I, it will take time. I don't know. I don't know how much time. Um, and the waves of like working through, all of what's happening to me, inside of me, the awareness of it all. It's tiring as well. It's a lot of emotional work. Um, and genuinely, I wish with all my heart that there was somebody there to give me a hug, just comfort me and say, I know you're doing this. I know you're in a path and you're on a journey, but it's okay. And there isn't anybody there. It's just me doing this. It's just me putting myself forward. Um, I mean, I work with a therapist. She's a wonderful lady and she's very supportive, in a professional relationship that we have. And I'm so grateful for her. But I don't have anybody that understands what it's like to go through the experience of like getting your life like back, reclaiming it back from deep seated trauma. And so I guess the point of this video is if anybody else is out there facing this, working through it, if you've gotten to the other side, um, for me personally, like it would be a huge sense of relief and support to know that you're there, because it's such important work. But doing it on your own, it's hard. It's really